Hi, and welcome to On the Sunny Side. I'm Sunny Greneveld. I'm an entrepreneur and Forbes Under 30 list maker. And every week in On the Sunny Side, I interview business leaders, entrepreneurs, researchers, people who are shaping the digital economy and who are using tech for good. Now, this week's guest is best-selling author Dorie Clark. She's also a professor at Duke's Fuqua Business School, and her most recent book is Entrepreneurial You. So Dorie, welcome to On the Sunny Side.
Hey, Sunny, I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
So for those who tune in regularly to this show, they know I always start these interviews with something I call Sunny's Fast Five. 5 quick questions to introduce you as my guest quickly, but hopefully also originally. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. So easy starters. Are you a morning or a night person?
It's not that easy. I used to be a night person, but as I've gotten older, I think I'm more of a morning person. So probably that now.
All right. In terms of, if I were to give you a time machine, you could go anywhere to any time episode, where would you go?
I always have been impressed with the Bloomsbury Circle in England, in the, I guess, 1910s and 20s. It would be so cool to hang out with Virginia Woolf and, all John Maynard Keynes and all the cool kids.
Traveling back to the present, what is a question that's top of mind for you right now?
I think one of the big ones that's on my mind is I live in New York City. And so thinking about its recovery and how fast or slow that is going to be post-COVID is something that I think about every day as I walk around and unfortunately see shuttered stores and things like that.
What is success to you?
To me, success is really just a question of self-actualization. It's how do you identify what you most want to do or be and then accomplish it. I think that's different for everyone, but to me, the idea of fulfilling your own inherent potential is very exciting.
You wrote Entrepreneurial You. That's your most recent book. And I'm wondering if you could just briefly explain for those who haven't read it yet, but who perhaps will read it after the show, what's the teaser? What is it about and why did you write it?
Basically, I feel here's my killer teaser. It's a book about how to make money, but it's not a cheesy book about how to make money. I like to think it is a thoughtful book about how to make money. It is specifically about creating multiple revenue streams in your business and how to do that in a strategic way. Because a problem that I think a lot of entrepreneurs have, frankly, a lot of people have, is that they are in a risky situation that they don't even understand is risky, because it's either somebody who has a day job that feels like it's secure, and of course nothing is really secure now, or it could be an entrepreneur that is just over-indexing and doing one type of thing or working with one type of client. And we saw with COVID as a vivid example that a lot of the things we take for granted can be very rapidly disrupted. And so it's a book about the importance of creating multiple revenue streams so that you can diversify your risk and also maximize your gains. And it shows you how to do that.
What would you tell someone who's read your book, who kind of believes that it's a good idea to be more of an entrepreneurial self, but who still feels uncertain about or overwhelmed by the idea of them actually doing it and actually stepping out of the mold?
Well, I think you raise an important point, Sunny. I think that in many ways, the metaphors, the metaphors that we use or the discourse that we have around entrepreneurship or around entrepreneurial thinking are actually all wrong, in the sense that so often the story that gets told is about, oh, they took a big risk, or they leapt and the net would appear. And those are terrible. Those are terrible metaphors. I actually think that the point of entrepreneurship is risk mitigation. It is a caricature to say that entrepreneurs are people who love risk. Oh, they can't wait for the risk. I mean, yes, Richard Branson might like to skydive, but the most important thing you need to know about Richard Branson is that when he started his airline, he built into his contracts that if no one wanted to fly on his planes, he could return them. He literally leased the planes. He didn't buy the planes. It's all about capping your downside risk. And so, of course, there's a lot of risk when it comes to launching some huge initiative. And oh my God, what if it doesn't work? You'll be disgraced. Well, yeah, maybe. But you know what? The point is you don't launch a huge initiative. You launch a tiny, tiny little baby initiative and you say it's a pilot and we're trying it for a week and we'll see how it goes. And then if it's good, you try, oh, we'll try it for a month. And you never get out over your skis. And if you do that, you are essentially either guaranteed to be successful or guaranteed to fail in a small enough way that no one cares.
Now, I mean, and I'm saying this as a Swiss who has, got sort of some roots in quality and perfectionism. It's things that are very close to our heart, and also, in many ways have made us succeed, and also in especially this digital world, this fast-paced world, sometimes also hold us back. How do you inspire others? I mean, I teach an executive MBA class. I have executives from all kinds of industries in my class. And what I realize is, it's one thing to be the one who signs up as the change maker in your organization, but it's the other thing to go back into your organization and inspire others to follow that lead. What are some of the sort of tried and tested strategies, as you also teach a lot of executives at Duke's Fuqua School of Business, that really work and that help people inspire others to become more entrepreneurial?
Yeah, persuasion is a crucial part, as you indicate, Sunny. And I think it's useful to go back to a classic model in sociology. This is something that Malcolm Gladwell talked about way back in The Tipping Point, and it's been a sort of crucial text in sociology for decades, which is a model created by Everett Rogers called the diffusion of innovation model. And the basic idea of it is that there's a tiny little percentage of people that are, they're always looking for the next thing. They're the people who are just so excited about innovation just because they love innovation. But that is a tiny percentage of people. And so if you are that person, if you are in the vanguard, fantastic, that's really exciting, that's wonderful. But you have to recognize that you can't talk to other people the way that you talk to yourself, because the things that are exciting for you, oh, it's new and it's amazing. Like other people don't care. They're like, why would you bother? So you really have to, number one, get in the heads of the customers. And by customers, I don't just mean the ultimate customers, the end stream customers. I mean the internal customers of the people that you need to convince who are on your team and in your company about, why something is so good. And, we have to be smart about it. It being new and sexy is not enough. There's going to be some people that respond better to arguments about risk. Maybe actually you can frame it with certain people about, oh, well, this is going to be the future. And, that's nice. But the real thing is we don't want our competitors to get there first. And, maybe that's the thing that's going to freak them out enough that they say, oh, you're right. No, we don't want that. And so they'll be motivated. Or, there's other arguments that you can think about, but it's really important to not come across as a zealot, because no one is going to listen to you if you're always the person, the voice crying out in the wilderness, just being the person who like, oh, well, they love everything new. We really have to be thoughtful about meeting people where they're at in the organization if we want to be persuasive.
What do you think sort of are the things or the strategies that people need to embrace as they go about planning their career in the digital world? Or is there such a thing as planning a career in the digital world even?
Well, I think it's always a good idea to create tentative plans, because if we don't have the vision, then we're just sort of drifting like jellyfish. But we also need to be nimble enough that if circumstances change or our goals change, that we are not locked in and prevented somehow from doing what we want. One of the things that I have actually I mean, we all know it's a useful idea, but I literally have been doing it during COVID, and it's at least giving me existential peace, is actual scenario planning, where I'm writing out potential future scenarios, sort of best case, worst case, middle case, and trying to understand how to prepare for those things. And I think the really crucial thing, the crucial insight here is that oftentimes there are things that you can do, whether it's developing new skills or building relationships or things like that, that will be helpful to you no matter what the scenario is. And if you have something that you could do that in, let's say, 2 out of 5 possible futures will be quite beneficial, that's actually not a bad idea. It's even better if it's in 3 out of 5 possible futures, because however things play out, you'll be well prepared. I'll give you one example. Since 2014, I have been investing a lot of time and energy in learning about and developing online courses. Now, I did that specifically because I was concerned about a future where I either got sick of traveling, or just maybe I got sick in some way and couldn't travel. And I thought, okay, I need to do more virtual stuff. Turns out pandemic was not on my radar, but having planned for these other things, I was able to benefit from it, because having the online courses, which I run, proved to be very beneficial during the pandemic when so many people turned to online learning.
Now, when it comes to resources, I mean, you are someone who researches a lot for courses, for the books you write. What are sort of your go-to places? What are books that have shaped you? What are blogs that you love to follow, podcasts? A lot of my audience are young business people who are looking to build a career, looking to become entrepreneurs or grow their business. Where would you send them? What are sort of the hidden gems that more people should know about?
Well, when I think about media that I consume regularly, I, things that I enjoy and are sort of part of my information stream. I mean, I subscribe to the New York Times and the New Yorker, and, I don't read everything, but there's a lot of good content there. I subscribe to Andrew Sullivan's weekly newsletter. He's a journalist that has written for a lot of entities, but now has gone independent. I love Seth Godin's podcast. I think that's fantastic, and always listen to that. So I try to take in different stuff. There's actually some newsletters that I enjoy. They have a formula where it's like a bunch of pretty pictures, and then they have like an article of the day. But they usually curate kind of interesting, slightly oddball articles. So they have it's a little bit reductive, but they have sort of a men's version and a women's version. But I'm modern, so I subscribe to both. And so one's called Mr. Spoils and one's called Stella Spoils. And they find interesting articles around the web, so you can find things about, like, here's the secret history of this bootlegger or whatever. And it's always kind of random and fun. So that's what I take in.
If you could share some of those links, I'll make sure to link them up on the YouTube description so people can, choose their favorite and tune into that. Closing question. Let's close with a story. I'd like to travel back with you in time to the 10th of September in 2001. And I'd love to hear how you look at that day today, and what you would tell 22-year-old Dorie from back then.
Yeah, thank you, Sunny. So, of course, you were picking that date because that it's something that I've talked about sometimes in my speeches and books, which is that the day before the far more famous September 11th, 2001, when New York had its terrorist attacks, the day before that, I ended up getting laid off from my first job, and it was sort of a weird position to be in, because I was a news reporter. And so I woke up on September 11th, and it was literally my first day of being unemployed. And it was like the biggest news day in the entire world. So I felt a little frustrated and a little useless there. And, I guess I also had a little schadenfreude. I'm like, yeah, bet they wish they'd kept me on another day. Would have been helpful to have an extra pair of hands. But anyway, it was also like very stressful and terrible, not just because, like everybody else, I was freaked out about the terrorist attacks and what was happening to our country, but additionally, the economy ground to a standstill. I mean, we kind of forget it now because it was a relatively brief blip, but you know, the stock market stopped trading. They grounded all planes for, you know, days and, you know, longer than that. So it was very freaky to have that be the time when I was looking for a job, and, you know, to be unemployed and to have to be thrown into that. So I would say, in terms of advice, or the way that I think about that as a younger person, eventually I got there, but something that would have been helpful to me earlier, I was very, very intent on keeping my career as a journalist. I wanted to continue pursuing it. And something that I really didn't understand or realize at the time was this was in many ways the start of the news industry being very profoundly disrupted by the internet. And so just it became impossible to actually get a job as a journalist. And I eventually ended up shifting into working in politics. So I think I would say that hopefully, if I were going back in the past, that I would, that I would tell my younger self to just kind of get with the program earlier and realize that I didn't have to cling to journalism the way that I did mentally, that when opportunities present themselves, you can pivot a little faster.
Well, Dorie, thank you so much for this very insightful conversation. It's been such a pleasure.
Thanks, Sunny. Great to be here.
Now, here on the sunny side, if you'd like to tune into this show regularly, I hope you click subscribe on the F15 channel. I'll be back every week on Fridays with a new episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the sunny side.